employees embraced the change in ownership?
Well, some of them are here. You could ask them. I think so. I think I haven't heard a lot of negatives about it. I think there was a pride. I think, I'd tell you my view as an employee owner. There was a major pride in being really the only remaining employee-owned newspaper in America of any size, and that hurts your feelings just a little bit. But when you think it through, the pragmatic solution really outweighed the kind of the personal pride of it. So I think our employees understand it. I think it couldn't be a better solution. If it had been some leveraged buyout roll-up from Poughkeepsie, I think we would have had a big problem having our employees embrace it. But because of who the owner is, and because of our familiarity with him and his reputation and Berkshire's reputation, I don't think we've had a lot of pushback. The most important elements in keeping any media outlet viable are audience and sales. So you've got to attract an audience, and we now have multiple forums with which to attract that audience. And we have, what was our page views last month, Joel? 18 million? Something like that. So we've done a nice job of attracting those audiences. Now the trick is not to give it away for free, right? So I think the internet, it helps us in that we get access to a much larger pool of viewers, I guess you were, or readers, and it gives us more opportunities to sell than we've ever had before. So we're excited about that. It's clearly a threat to the ink on paper business, which, by the way, remains very good today.
Where do you see the paper 5 years from now?
Is this a job interview? I think we're gonna be different. I think we'll be better at multi-channel each of those 5 years. We're not going to wait 5 years to get there, but we'll keep improving upon that. I think we'll own other businesses, and I can't tell you what they are now that we don't own today, that are allied to us either in the information business or the advertising business. And I think we'll be having more fun. I think this is going to be a hoot.
This is related to a couple of previous questions. Tell us about 5 to 10 years from now, still a printed edition, or will it all be online?
I'm in the camp that we would still have a printed edition, and I can't tell you the volumes of those two. I think the online will continue to grow. It's been growing at a very rapid pace. But I think there'll be a need for and a demand for a printed newspaper, certainly 5 or 10 years from now.
Just in dollar terms, the Omaha World-Herald seems to represent less than 0.1% of Berkshire. Does the paper's performance matter to Warren Buffett?
We're familiar with the idea that we're some might say a rounding error on Berkshire's income statement. I think their net earnings last year was it 12 billion or some really big number that is a lot bigger than our company. So we understand that. So the first question is, that's accurate. Second part of that is, do I think our performance matters to Warren Buffett? Absolutely. I send him a set of financials every month, and he reads them, and I think he pays attention to them, and I think he's proud of them. I know that he reads our paper every day, so I think if our performance went downhill, I think he would notice very quickly. So, yeah, I think it matters, and it's probably not entirely economic, but the results we're producing, I'm proud of them, and I think our owner's proud of them as well.
Does the World-Herald grant discounts in advertising to other Berkshire companies?
That depends on how much advertising they buy.
You're on Facebook. What is your view of the social media?
Well, I have a Facebook, I would have to confess, I first got a Facebook account so I could keep track of what my daughters were saying on it. So that's how I got into it. I think it's interesting. I worry about it as not as a newspaper guy as much as an American, that I think people tend to really waste a lot of time with some of that stuff. And so some of it I think is productive. Some of it I think is pretty silly. I mean, the mafia games and all the stuff that people do. I just worry about America's productivity. When I suppose there was a day when people might have read books or watched a documentary or done something that was maybe a little more productive. So I think it's a neat tool, but I worry about kind of the addiction factor on it.
Is the weekly Buffett Watch column going to continue? Does Warren consider, or how does Warren consider the column a nuisance, or does he enjoy the coverage?
First of all, on the Warren Watch, I see Steve Jordan's in the back of the room. I'd ask him that question, because that's a judgment that will be made in our newsroom, as it should be. And I hope he likes the coverage. As I said before, we've never had a discussion about that, and I don't expect to. So he's an important news figure for us to cover. We will continue to cover him just as we have, and don't look for any change in that.
Will the editorial writers be influenced by the fact that Warren Buffett will be their boss, or is their boss, that in effect he will be looking over their shoulders as they write?
Absolutely not. And I tried to cover that in my remarks. And I'd say again, Mr. Buffett has never called anyone in our organization about any news issue. Has not happened. I don't expect it to happen. I would be really surprised if it did happen. And to be candid, if it did start to happen, I think a lot of people would not stay, because that's really not what we're about. And I think it's important to remember that the chairman of Berkshire Hathaway is probably one of the smartest guys there that exists. And he is not going to buy something that has a priceless asset such as credibility and turn around and wreck it. I just don't believe that to be the case.
In October, the paper decides to endorse Mitt Romney for president, and Warren Buffett, we know, likes Barack Obama. As owner of a newspaper, shouldn't he decide something as important as an endorsement of the president?
I had two responses to that. First of all, Warren and I covered that in our first meeting. It will be up to our editorial board, such as it is, or our editorial staff, which is predominantly Mike Holmes and myself, will decide that. So I don't worry about that one. The other thing is, there's an interesting precedent for that when Peter Kiewit owned the World-Herald, the first newspaper in America to call for Richard Nixon's resignation was ours. And one of the largest donors to Richard Nixon's 1972 re-election campaign was Peter Kiewit. I think that it might be good form to let him know what we're going to do, which I would suspect I would adopt good form. But that's going to come from the newspaper, and there's a lot of campaign left, so who knows what's going to happen with that.